and welcome back to Above the Yellow Line, the show where we talk about all the updates, theories, news, recaps, and more of the NASCAR Cup Series. This weekend, we are talking about the Circuit of the Americas race, the EchoPark Texas Grand Prix, a new series race for the NASCAR Cup Series and all the series. We have a treat this weekend with the Truck, Xfinity, and Cup Series coming back in one weekend. Also a treat, Matthew McConaughey as the Grand Marshal for the Cup Series race. Lots of exciting stuff to get to. But to start, we have a lot of crazy updates to get to. Keselowski leaving Penske, number placement, new tracks, lots to talk about. So without further ado, let's get started. These past few weeks on Above the Yellow Line, we've talked about tracks reopening their doors to fans, and it appears the money is rolling right in for 3 tracks in particular. Breaking news on Wednesday, North Carolina Governor Roy Cooper announced that $30 million of his American Rescue Plan money will go towards infrastructure repairs at Charlotte Motor Speedway, North Wilkesboro Speedway, and Rockingham? This is clearly good news for Save the Speedway movement. It's so good for North Wilkesboro, who already has a backing and money behind it. Maybe a little bit more movement in the right direction of actually getting this track back on the circuit. But we have to talk about the obvious right here. We have to talk about Rockingham Speedway. This speedway, nicknamed the Rock, opened in 1965, and its last Cup Series race was held in 2004 when Matt Kenseth won. Now, the last time the track was used was in 2014 for modifieds and truck races, so it needs a little bit of repairs, but it's not impossible. Right now, North Carolina is the central hub of NASCAR, and it really always has been, but we only have one track on the circuit right now, and that is Charlotte Motor Speedway. Obviously, we have the Charlotte Roval. I'm going to count them as one track because, it converts. So, one track on the schedule, and I was pretty shocked. So trying to renovate North Wilkesboro and now Rockingham, bringing them back to the NASCAR schedule is huge. It allows teams less travel time, and it also brings more home the point that North Carolina is the central hub of NASCAR. It's where all the news is, it's where all the teams are. I think it's great for NASCAR, and I really hope this money helps these tracks get back on the schedule. So we're renovating tracks left and right, so a lot of change there. We also have a lot of change with the next gen car, and speaking of renovations and changes, we have some more news about the number placement. Yeah, we're talking about number placement again, and I know I keep saying we're talking about these topics till I'm blue in the face, but the reason we're talking about this today is because we have more information and statistical data about why these numbers should and probably will be moved. I talked a few weeks back on the podcast that NASCAR was actually paying a company to study the number change and what's the benefits to the team, what's the benefits to the sponsors, and the company Nielsen has the data for us now that they've presented to the teams. According to a report by Adam Stern, moving the numbers from the center of the car to other places actually results in added sponsor value. This is news that so many fans do not want to hear for a number of reasons, because this really means that the numbers will probably move in the cars next year in 2022. And if they bring this up to the fan council, the vote really comes between, do you want the teams to lose money or do you want to keep the numbers? And that's kind of an unfair vote to give there, but obviously we want to keep these teams around, we want to bring money to the sport, so looks like we're going to have to deal with a number change. I myself have reacted to this many times. Fans have reacted to this many times, but now thanks to a visual we're getting from graphic designer Harris Liu from Liu Creatives, we're actually seeing a visual representation that the drivers are now commenting on. The visual is up on your screen here, and actually it helped me out quite a bit to kind of realize what these changes are going to look like. In a perspective, I saw Denny Hamlin. I have to agree with him. He thinks the number placement would be better if the number was moved forward on the car, and here is why. If you slide the numbers forward, there's a lot more room for a logo, and we identify companies by their logo so much now that just having a spot, like a little spot for the logo by the front fender and the front wheel is not enough. So if you slide the numbers forward, there's all that space by the back wheel to have that logo. Also, by the top of the wheel, there's space for a company name. So if you don't want the numbers in the center, that leaves more room for a logo. Now, there's other opinions on this, and one specific one, an interesting one I sort of like, I want to bring up is one from Ryan Vargas and one from Corey LaJoy. They suggest that sponsors have a choice in the matter week after week, saying maybe if we don't want the numbers in the center, we can move them back, and maybe if we want them in the center, we can keep them there. And this is because maybe design-wise, the number for a certain car, whether they have a lack of sponsors or too many sponsors on the car, the number might actually look better in the center of the car, so it leaves room to make a nice-looking car. Now, I do see the flaws in this actually, because if you don't have uniform numbers throughout the field, if one number's slid back, one number's in the center, one's moved forward, it can kind of look sloppy, and in my opinion, I guess unprofessional. It's kind of like having a uniform for work. That's just how I see it, but at the same time, if sponsors get a choice and they like that better and they're not forced to have their design look different on the car, then yeah, I'd go for the choice. If that's going to bring money into NASCAR and leave sponsors happy, I'm all for it. But some interesting takes here. I love hearing the driver perspective, and I'm sure we're going to hear more as this news becomes more concrete, and I'll let you know when that happens. But news that constantly breaks the internet here with the number placement of all things. Other news that broke the internet this week, it's a shocker. It is a big piece of news. The following news truly had people losing their minds on the internet. Announced on Tuesday, Brad Keselowski, who is a free agent after this year, was offered a spot at Roush Fenway Racing for a driver's seat and for ownership. Now there is lots to unpack here with the whys and whats and kind of the logistics of things. So let's start with Brad Keselowski to begin. Brad Keselowski is 37 years old. That's not old at all. In NASCAR terms and motorsports racing careers, it's getting up there. Now, I don't see Brad leaving the sport anytime soon. I don't see that happening maybe for the next 5 years or beyond. But still, it begs the question, what do you want to do with your career after you hang up the helmet? And this opportunity of ownership at Roush Fenway Racing gives Brad Keselowski that option to be like, you know what, I want to still be in the sport when I retire. Here's my way in, and I know Brad has been vocal about that before. So it gives him a little bit of what he wants after he leaves the driver's seat. Now, for those thinking that this is kind of an odd deal, Brad is actually no stranger to the ownership role and a leadership role. A reminder, he owned Brad Keselowski Racing, a truck series team from 2007 all the way to 2017 with drivers like Chase Briscoe, Austin Cindric, even Ryan Blaney. So he is no stranger to the ownership role. Now, on a leadership side of things, he owns his own manufacturing company right now that's actually expanding and doing really well. So he's got the ownership side of things and he has a leadership side of things, which is very important when you want a team owner. So we have the Brad Keselowski side of things. Now we have to talk about the team side of things, Team Penske. Why would Brad still leave the team considering all the things I just mentioned? And what does this mean for Team Penske as a whole? So we know the number 2 car is one of the top cars in the sport right now. And with Brad potentially leaving Team Penske, that leaves that spot open. So that is a risk for Brad because there's not another top tier ride to go to. And that also leaves a risk for Team Penske because they don't have a top tier driver to put in that number 2 car. Something else we know about Team Penske going into 2022 is that Austin Cindric is signed on to move to the Wood Brothers 21 car. I also mentioned a few podcasts ago that Larry McReynolds actually said that Roger Penske has a plan for Matt DiBenedetto, who is leaving the 21 car after this year. But Matt DiBenedetto said on Sirius XM radio for NASCAR this week that his plans for next season totally ride on the dominoes falling. And those dominoes, I think, mean what Brad Keselowski does if he decides to stay or if he decides to leave. So does this mean that Team Penske adds a 4th car to their roster? Does this mean that Matt DiBenedetto takes over the 2 car next year if Brad leaves? There's a lot of possibilities. Now, I don't think that Matt should be leaving the 21 car, but I also think, and I'm pretty sure that Austin Cindric has already signed on for the 21 car, so it would be weird to have Matt move just from a Team Penske affiliate to a Team Penske team, but that's not out of the realm of possibilities because remember, Ryan Blaney did that a few years ago, moving from the Wood Brothers 21 to the 12 car at Team Penske. So lots of people say it's weird and it doesn't make sense, but it's happened before. So to close this out, I mentioned what it means for Penske. I mentioned what it means for Brad. We're missing a part here. What does this mean for Roush Fenway Racing? Now, if Brad accepts this offer, I think this is huge for that team. It could potentially make them a championship caliber team again, depending on what Brad brings to the table. And according to reports, Brad would take over the 6 car, which leads the question, where is Ryan Newman going to go? Because there haven't been reports of him retiring, and we don't know if they're going to add another car to the roster. So this does leave the question, are they going to add a 3rd car? And also what happens to Chris Buescher in that 17 car? Now they announced this week that they have a partnership plan with Fastenal for their 17 car all the way through 2024, but they have not specifically said that Chris Buescher will be staying in that 17 car next season. So there is some unsureness over there at Roush Fenway Racing as much as there's unsureness right now for Brad Keselowski, if I can just make that a word. So as unsure as things are, could we see Roush Fenway Keselowski Racing next season? Let me know in the comments below what you think, and I'm sure we're going to get more news about this as the season goes on. Probably early fall, late fall at the earliest, but I'll keep you up to date on what happens with Brad Keselowski going into the 2022 season. So those are all the major updates from this week and last week. Let's move into our pre-race show for the EchoPark Texas Grand Prix. Circuit of the Americas is a fast 3.41 mile course that has 20 grueling turns with long straightaways. Stage 1 is 15 laps, stage 2 is 17 laps, and the final stage is 36 laps. With 20 turns, these drivers are bound to get snagged up in one of them. Usually on road courses we see maybe anywhere from 7 to 13 turns, but no, Circuit of the Americas has 20. And knowing that these turns are so unique, I asked my buddy Zachary Bell to hop onto iRacing and tell us what these turns are all about.
What is up, everybody? Welcome to a lap here at Cody describing the racetrack. So you're coming off of turn 20 here, and you're going to head straight to the start-finish line, and you'll see coming up here that this is a straight and uphill descent into a hard left-hander, hard left-hand turn in turn 1. And the thing about turn 1 is it's a blind corner for the drivers, but it's also such a great passing zone. So guys are going to be really aggressive there all weekend. That cause a lot of accidents. Here's a nice smooth right-hand turn, turn 2 leading to the S's sort of thing that you see at Sonoma. These S's are deceptive. They want you to go through these really quickly, but really the speed's not to be found here. You know, it's really about being clean and smooth through most of these and everything. Once you get through the S's, you're gonna have a tight left-hand turn. And remember, folks, COTA is an FIA, road course for Formula One, so it's based off of a lot of famous international circuits around the world. Silverstone, Spa. You have another quick left-hand turn, like a dog leg. This is where the track gets really high speed, kind of like Watkins Glen. Here's the last slow part of the track for a little bit. It's a sharp left-hand turn. That's turn 11 now. You're going to go up to the high-speed part of the racetrack here. Drivers in the Cup race will actually get up to about 180 miles per hour, probably 175, 180. And then you're going to start the slow section, almost like the infield section at the Daytona road course here. So this is a nice little left-hand turn, turn 12. We'll get to a complete stop there. And then you're going to get a nice little right-hand turn here. It's real slow, like I said. Drivers have talked about running 11 through first gear here. More slow infield. See, this is exactly like the Daytona road course that we saw back in February before they went on the oval. This is nice and slow and tight. This is going to be really, really hard to pass. And you're going to have to outbrake somebody quite a bit. Here we are coming to the final couple of turns on the road course. Another right-hander here. Coming up on a left-hander here. This is 17. Oh, see, I came in the corner way too hot. But you have a lot of room here. There's no track limits this weekend, so you can really kind of send it wide. You're going to come on to turn 20 here. This is the final turn of the road course. And then you'll have your drivers throttle it up to get all the way back. Our finish line as soon as possible. And that is a lap at COTA.
Again, thank you so much to Zach for telling us about the Circuit of the America turns. I'll have his information in the description below. Also, I have a video below linked to Colton Herta, who is an IndyCar driver, as he describes what it's like to go through on an IndyCar. So never bad to have too much information. I'll link that into the description below as well. But let's move on. Let's talk about some new and old faces joining the lineup for this weekend at Circuit of the Americas. Now, Justin Haley was approved to come back to the track after he was off due to COVID protocols. So welcome back to the track, Justin Haley. I'm glad he is feeling better and is able to go back in the 77 car. Up on the screen is the rest of the lineup. AJ Allmendinger will be back in the Cup car for Colleague Racing in the 16 car. Austin Cindric is back for Penske in their 33 car. Ty Dillon will make his third Cup Series start of the season in the 96 Gaunt Brothers Racing Toyota. Finally, a new face to the series, Kyle Tilley, an English driver. Some of us may recognize him from winning the Rolex 24 at Daytona. He will be racing for Live Fast Motorsports in the 78 car. On the other hand, let's talk about some Cup Series drivers trying to race their way into the Xfinity race this weekend. It never hurts to have too much practice at a new track. Kevin Harvick is set to pilot the number 5 for BJ McLeod Motorsports. Cole Custer is in the 17 for SS Greenlight Racing and Rick Ware Racing. Tyler Reddick is in the 31, hopefully this weekend, for Jordan Anderson Racing. Kyle Busch for Jogos Racing in the 54. And finally, Austin Dillon is in the Bassett Racing number 77. I also want to mention the Truck Series real quick because Paul Menard, the driver that retired in 2019 on Wood Brothers Racing, announced that he is returning to the Truck Series this weekend in Thor Sport Racing's number 66 car. So that is your roster going into this weekend at Circuit of the Americas. Now, I don't have a starting lineup because we have practice and qualifying this weekend, the first time in a long time. So let me break down how qualifying in particular works this weekend. The first and only practice this weekend for the Cup Series is Saturday around 10 a.m. and then we move on to qualifying on Sunday before the race at 11 a.m. Qualifying takes place in 2 rounds. Round 1 will have all the cars on the track for 25 minutes and they will all compete to get their single fastest lap time. The 12 eligible cars to post the fastest lap time amongst the rest of the field will move on to round 2. Now, the drivers that don't move on to round 2 will be lined up accordingly to their fastest single lap time. Round 2 is a 10-minute qualifying time, and all the times that were previously posted by the drivers in round 1 will be totally reset. So it is an even playing field going in with the 12 fastest cars in the field. When that time is up, the driver with the fastest single lap time will be on the pole for the race at Circuit of the Americas and will line up accordingly from places 1 to 12. So that is how qualifying works. And since we don't have qualifying, I do not have a lineup, which means it is so hard for me to pick a race winner this weekend, also not knowing how these drivers are going to do yet. So I have a few theories, as I'm sure we all do, about who could win this race this weekend, and I'll mention them very briefly because we know the names I'm going to mention. I think the obvious names here are our road course warriors. We have AJ Allmendinger, who will be in the race, the Cup race this weekend. We have Chase Elliott, obviously the road course king, and Martin Truex Jr., who are extraordinarily good at road course racing. I think less obvious but also obvious choices to mention would be Kyle Larson and also Christopher Bell, who won the Daytona road course this season, so he's also someone who pops up in my mind a bit. Also, I want to mention Brad Keselowski, and a lot of you are probably thinking he spun during the whole Daytona road course thing, but I'm mentioning him because he did tire testing earlier this season with Martin Truex Jr. and Chase Elliott to figure out the right tire combination for this race this weekend. So he has some prior experience over the rest of the field, and I think that could be a really good advantage coming into this weekend. So my race winning pick, I hate to go with the obvious here, but because we have no data, because like I keep saying, this is a new track for all three series, I gotta go with a safe choice right now. Now, it might change with qualifying, it might change with practice, but for right now, I think going with the road course king, Chase Elliott, to win Circuit of the Americas is a pretty safe bet. So that is my race pick. Let me know in the comments below who your race pick is, and with that, I am done. Thank you all so much again for listening to Above the Yellow Line, the show where we talk about all the updates, theories, news, recaps, and more of the NASCAR Cup Series. Up before you is the schedule for this weekend for the EchoPark Texas Grand Prix. Tune in on Sunday at 2:30 p.m. Eastern Time on FS1. In the meantime, for more racing content, check out my Twitter page for race day coverage and daily updates from the world of NASCAR and beyond. Also check out the podium finish for awesome driver interviews. We just did one with Jamie Johnson. Rob Tiagson, the leader of the group, just did one with Kyle Busch as well, and he's doing one with Alex Bowman. So make sure you check them out, show them some love. Also show my channel some love by following, liking, and telling all your friends and family about it. And while you're doing that, I want to thank you all so much for listening again to Above the Yellow Line. And until next time, I'll see ya.